virtual event. And as it just popped up on my screen, to remind everybody, we are recording this event and it will be posted on our website. So if you want to go back and see some of the slides and hear some of the information, it'll be on the website probably tomorrow. Can I just get a check, Dennis? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right, thank you. All right, I want to, as I said, welcome you all. I wish we were all in Salt Lake seeing each other in person, but until this COVID thing dies down, we've decided to do it virtually. So I'd like to turn it over to General Lord, the president of AAFM, for some opening comments. General Lord.
There we go. You can hear me now?
Now we can, yes, sir.
Okay. The system administrator had me out, but I appreciate the thing. And thank you, Jim, and the whole team for putting this together. I think once again, it proves that no set of circumstances or conditions can put the Air Force Missileers behind the 8 ball. So we're good. And for today's pre-departure briefing, I'll skip the weather update and the intelligence briefing, and we'll go right into the functions today. So thanks to all for attending. We've got a great agenda, got some great speakers, and I look forward to going through the slides with you. And then also we'll have a chance at the end to talk with General Cotton, the new Global Strike Command commander. And certainly we all know him from his background in our business. So we look forward to talking with him as well. So thanks to the experts for joining us, and let's get on with business. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, sir. We do have the chat function up and running. If you have some questions for the speakers, please put them in the chat function. I'll pick ones that I think are relevant and apply. I am the official gatekeeper here. So please use the chat function for questions. Next slide, please. I want to say a special thanks to a couple of our sponsors, Summit Technical Solutions and Lockheed Martin. They were very generous in the Titan level sponsorship of AAFM, and without their funds paying for things like Zoom would have been a little more difficult. We hope to increase our sponsor program in 2022, and I'll get more out to each of the industry reps with that in the future. Next slide, please. Here's the agenda for today. You've got me for the next 11 minutes, and then we're going to turn it over to our ICBM experts, Colonel Quigley from Minuteman III and Colonel Bartolome from GBSD. And then, as General Lord just mentioned, we've got the latter part of the event devoted to our newest Missileer 4-star and commander of Air Force Global Strike Command, General Tony Cotton, who, by the way, is also an AAFM member, as you would expect. Next slide. Just a short reminder on who's on the board of directors that guides and helps me run this organization. As you can see, we've got a good group of operations and maintenance and senior leaders. They each serve a 6-year term. We'll have new elections coming up in the February timeframe. And that'll all be done through our website electronically. No more paper ballots. We're going to account for everything and have a good session. Next slide. Your board has been very busy over the last year. I want to just talk about a couple of things, and then the next few slides will highlight all the programs they've been doing. Again, I wish we were in Salt Lake City, but when the recent COVID mandates came down, they started locking down a lot of the base things, and all our tours were going to be in jeopardy. So we decided to postpone the actual in-person until this time next year. You'll see more about that on the website in December. And so keep an eye out for that. Those that asked for refunds got it, and those that banked their funds, we still have your information on file. So as I said, the board's been working hard over the last year. We're working hard to stay relevant and stay open to change. Last month, Monty Watts and I had a chance to go out to each of the 3 missile wings. We took Dr. David Stump, the author of the latest technical history on Minuteman, out to the 3 wings, and we had a chance to talk to leadership. We listened to what they're saying, and we're trying to respond and stay current and stay relevant. The board this year worked on a new strategic plan. It's posted on the website. We focused on the dual aspects of sharing our history and educating the public, and keeping current and supporting the ICBM fleet. We upgraded our website last year. Special thanks to Dennis Brook, who without him, I could not have done a third of what we've done on the website. Well, even none of what we've done on the website without his good research and understanding of IT and making the site user friendly. Now you can find all the information you want about your membership and other members without having to come through me. We did transition to a credit card based paying. Checks are still accepted, cash is accepted, but for those that like using credit cards, it's a lot easier. We're working to expand our digital footprint through Facebook. I'll tell you, we've had a lot of problems with Facebook in our account recently, but Twitter and other things, we're trying to get the word out. And we're in the process of updating our bylaws. Those are the general things. Let me talk about some very specific programs that we're working on. Next slide, please. We will launch in January of 2022 the Air Force Missileers Hall of Fame to recognize those people in our history that have made significant contributions across the fleet, ops, maintenance, security, supply, et cetera, all the way back to the BMO days. Our job is to recognize those people like any other Hall of Fame. The criteria is already in place. We spent this last year working on that. Nomination packages, announcements and nomination packages will go out to the public and AFM members here later this fall. John Allen has agreed, my good friend, to step in and help us by chairing the committee that we've established. And I'm looking forward to John's insight and leadership on that committee. We hope to have the first inductees recognized at our Salt Lake City meeting in 2022. And I've met with both the Museum of the Air Force and the SAC Aerospace Museum, and they've agreed to host digital displays of our Hall of Fame. So we'll be a virtual hall, but we'll have specific digital displays starting there, and then we hope the display will be such that other locations can pick it up, and it'll all be software driven. We're really happy about this. We've got to find some sourcing, some funds to pay for the recognition, but the rest of it should be easy to sustain. Next slide. The second program that we're announcing today and launching later this month is the AFM Scholarship Program. We realize that there are still young men and women out there who are trying to further their education on active duty, and this program is designed to cover the expenses that are not covered under the Military Tuition Assistance Program. It's open to all ranks and all specialties. You don't have to be an AAF member to apply, but you got to be on active duty and you got to be supporting the ICBM force. Applications announcements are going out this month through our website, through other publicity, and through the base papers, notices to wing leadership, et cetera. And our deadline will be the 1st of December for all applications. We'll do it all virtually. It's online, very easy, and we've test run it, so we shouldn't have any problems. I would like to say that our first 2 scholarships will be named after two very important contributors to our ICBM history. Colonel Charlie Simpson, who was the founding executive director and founding member of AAFM, and has been at this association for all 25 plus years, and is still helping as our newsletter editor and is my foundation for anything that I can't figure out. Charlie's my go-to guy. And the second person is Chief Hawkeiser, who many of you know, spent a lot of time in maintenance and then a lot more time at TRW and Northrop Grumman. And so we'll name our first two scholarships after them. We hope to get scholarships out to each of the wings and to Vandenberg. We have limited funds, and so we'll spread it wisely, and then hope that with more donations coming in, that this will only increase. Next slide, please. Okay, so let me first say, Greg Ogletree has made patches his life's work since he left the Air Force, maybe even while he was still on active duty, if I remember correctly. It all started when he was at the 4th ACTS. And we had some of that on our website, but over the last 12 months, Greg and a team of volunteers, and you can see their names there, special thanks to Dennis, Gary, Scott, Larry, and Monty. They spent the last year making the new patch gallery, which we just launched in June, just outstanding. As you can see, an interactive layout, high-res images, themed galleries, lots of patches. It is our living history in cloth, as Greg has said. And we're very proud of it, and we hope you all get a chance to take a look at it. But I'll tell you, this is a living history. While we've made every story, every patch, a personal history story, we know there's more information out there. And if you have it, please send a note to the email below, patches@afmissileers.org. Greg and the team would love to get new patches, love to get more stories about what's there, all of that type of information. Again, we're really excited about this, but it's best if we continue it by adding more to it. So thanks to Greg and team for doing it where we are, and we look forward to that growing. And yes, someone just posted a note here. I said active duty, but I do mean active duty reserve and guard, those in uniform that are supporting the ICBM mission. And that's a good point. I appreciate that. Okay, next slide. You know, for the past 25 years, AAFM has used its funds from dues and others to support the history of ICBMs, and we've done that by supporting about 25 museums around the country. It may be a little more. If you haven't seen it, on our website, we put together a brochure of all the museums that have missile displays around the country. We put that brochure in each of the museums so people have a link of knowing where to go. And then, as it says here, we've put in over $300,000 over the last 25 plus years to help tell that ICBM story. Every fall, we start the grant program, so letters will go out next week requesting for the grant request program. And we'll have those decisions made and checks posted by the end of December. If you haven't heard, Minuteman III is facing deactivation, I guess is the best way of saying it. And the Global Strike History Office is leading an effort to help develop information for the Minuteman III Save List. So we're working with each of the museums to help them understand what's available, and with the History Office, and offer them subject matter expertise so they can better tell the story of Minuteman. There's a lot of stuff that is not going to be used for GBSD. I don't know how much Colonel Bartolome will be able to tell us later this morning, but a lot of Minuteman III will be available for museums and displays, and we've got to capture it soon, or it's going to be it's going to go away as part of deactivation. If you've seen the newsletter, you'll see a picture of Monty Watts and Colonel Little at 20th Air Force as we presented an updated version of the missile comp patched display, patch gallery. Monty worked with the 20th Air Force folks to create a better frame and display for the patches they had, and then we went out to members and we were able to fill in all of the gaps. A special thanks to the folks you see here who provide some patches recently to really fill in the total contribution. It's a great display of our history of the competition, and it's displayed in the 20th Air Force headquarters. And then one more thing that's in in the newsletter, Monty Watts has taken on the job of what I call missile artifacts curator. If you ever seen Monty's office, it's full of what's available, and he keeps on collecting it. I think his garage is starting to fill up. But Monty is going to be the guy that if you've got a patch or an old tech data or an old whatever it happens to be, and you want to get rid of it because it's in your garage and gathering dust, Monty will be the guy that will be glad to take it and then find a home for it. There are plenty of museums that are looking for these type of displays. I was down in Albuquerque 2 weeks ago and picked up a 3-foot ICBM silo display that Ron Miller had that was in his garage or his office, and it was time to get rid of it. And so we have it, and we're going to put it in a museum. So if you have stuff, you want to get rid of it, reach out to Monty at the address below. Next slide. All right, I've gone way past my time. I will tell you a couple quick things. I want to say thanks to the men and women at all 3 missile wings for hosting us. We took Dr. David Stump out on a book tour. The wings treated him like a rock star. We really appreciate that, and your generosity and hospitality was over the top and well appreciated. And thank you very much. I will tell you one more thing. An idea has popped up. We are going to put together a book on artwork from the MAFs and the LCCs. If you have pictures of blast door art, elevator art from sites that have been destroyed at Ellsworth and Whiteman, Grand Forks, etc., please send them to me. We're going to work with Global Strike and Historian's Office and other places to put together and capture a lot of this art. Next slide. I talked about social media. Let's go forward since I'm talking too long. Next slide. And I will tell you, we put a lot of our videos on YouTube. Check out our YouTube channel. More to follow on that. Next slide. And now I am happy to say that both Colonel Eric Quigley, who's the Minuteman III senior material leader, and Colonel for Minuteman III, and Colonel Jason Bartolome, who is the GBSD senior leader, have agreed to spend some time telling us about their programs. I welcome both of you and appreciate your time on a Saturday morning. And at that point, I'll turn it over to Colonel Quigley.
All right, good morning. Thank you, Mr. Warner. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir, loud and clear.
Okay, great. Well, it's humbling to be an opening act for General Cotton. He's an awesome, dynamic speaker. You guys are in for a treat today, and also Colonel Bartolome. Also, I just wanted to give a shout out as I was waiting in the lobby to get into this meeting today. I saw a little pop-up of Chris Sombrowski, who's the civilian on that SpaceX flight. And I didn't realize he was a former MMT up at Malmstrom. So that's pretty awesome. So shout out to him. So yeah, I'm Eric Quigley. I'm the director of the Minuteman III Systems Directorate. If we can go to the next slide. This is kind of a Huntley Brinkley tag team brief that Jason and I do, usually for folks new to the ICBM enterprise, but we know obviously there's a lot of experience here on the meeting today. So I'm going to hit the wave tops and also dive in when we get to the weapon system slides, just to kind of tell you what some of our sustainment challenges are right now with the Minuteman III as we do get closer to deactivation. And as we get closer in the coming decade to transition from Minuteman III to GBSD. And then Jason will follow up with the last few charts. So yeah, some of this chart here is the one we love to show that nuclear deterrence is actually working. My boss, Anthony Genetempo, Augie, likes to say, we are using our ICBMs every day. Okay, sometimes we get asked by Congress or new staffers or CODELs, things like that. They ask the question, why are we spending so much money modernizing a weapon system that we're never going to use, or sustaining a weapon system we're never going to use? And our answer is we're using this every day, as this metric shows, to win on nuclear deterrence. The actual cost of lives has drastically reduced since the advent of the nuclear age, from the time of the atomic bomb on forward, with the Atlas program in the 50s. We can go to the next chart. So I heard Mr. Warner talk about all the history office and the blast valve, art and all that from the former bases that are deactivated or no longer there. In fact, yesterday I saw a metric which was fascinating to me, with over 1,200 missile sites, ICBM sites with 3 different configurations with the Atlas, Titan, and the Minuteman. And we're down from 1,200 aim points to 400 aim points. But this chart we like to show of why the land-based leg of the triad is the most responsive leg, and the sheer number of aim points we have to contend with an adversary to be able to survive and respond after a first strike. Without this land-based leg of the triad, we'd really be in a bad situation. And the other thing we like to say, and you all know this because you've all been stationed at many of these places, the 3 active missile wings are literally the size of mid-Atlantic states. Next chart, please. So I'll spend just a minute on this chart just to kind of show you where we've been going in the Minuteman III system program office to, as we try to age more gracefully. Our strategic message is we're not SLEPing this system anymore, service life extension. Our next SLEP effort is the GBSD modernization effort, program of record. But we are experiencing some challenges in these areas, and we are using digital to get after trending and predicting maintenance and supply issues on this system. Our weapon system is now 58 years old when you include the ground subsystems. There's some things on here where we are identifying that are the top drivers for maintenance hours, like the SIACs, the shock isolator air compressors, both in the LFs and the LCCs, the blast doors, the B-plug hatch, motor generators, specifically in the LF, they're at their end of life. We have blast valves as well. We have corrosion all over the ground subsystems, especially in the launch support building with brine chiller lines. You also have potential hardness concerns because of this, with the blast valve issues as well, and the blast doors. So we are getting after, if we only had $5 to spend on our next problem, we make sure that we are putting our money in the right places to sustain this incredible weapon system, to age gracefully over the remaining 17 years of life. Okay, so that was the message here. And we do spend about $600 million a year in sustainment on this weapon system. That's not a small amount of money. And that's to do our program depot maintenance, and also our all of our testing out at the SMIC and the Little Mountain Test Facility. The other thing I would like to mention is we're moving away from an 8-year PDM cycle starting in FY23, and we're going to be moving more to a condition-based maintenance program to get after these top drivers that are maintenance drivers and supply drivers that are bringing the availability and mission capability rates down on the weapons system. Next chart, please. We could flip to the next one. There we go, thanks. So again, the system is aging. It is 58 years old. It's an incredible weapon system, the backbone of our nuclear deterrence, that with this land-based leg of the triad. We are anxiously awaiting the modernization effort to come online here. I think Jason will talk about that, about when that's happening. But we are actively getting after age out and attrition. We have more data now that we are putting into digital databases and secure data clouds and product lifecycle management environments called Team Center, so we can better predict and use that data to get after what we need to fix. So the way we do that digitally, the real mission here is to provide the right data to the right people at the right time to make those time critical decisions. That's how we're using digital sustainment. We have several lines of effort to strengthen tech ownership, optimizing workflow. For example, where is an Air Force 202 form or an ETAR in the system? We can now digitally see where that is in the system at any one time. We are enabling efficient transition with our digital tools, so we can inform the order of service for which sites are going to be converted to GBSD when. And we're also using digital tools in the Minuteman system to help us visualize the health of the fleet of the system and what subcomponents are actually driving non-mission capable or partial mission capable status. So that's our challenge. We have a huge job ahead of us as we transition from Minuteman III to GBSD, including our supplier base for the ICBMs. I know our new Secretary of the Air Force, Secretary Kendall, loves data. So the one data point I'm ready to give him is we have done an analysis on our top tier 1 suppliers in the ICBMs. We have about 65 of them across our weapons system. And out of those 65 suppliers, we have 18 of those that are either medium or high risk for not just going out of business, but that we're really concerned with supplier quality and readiness. So we are on an active campaign, if you will, to make sure we strengthen the industrial base until GBSD delivers at the end of this decade. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my partner in crime, Colonel Bartolome, on GBSD.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Let's go to the next chart here. It's a real honor to be able to speak to everybody. I think you all are as familiar as anyone on the mission. One of the things that I think we'd like to highlight, and I think it's an important message, is that we've enjoyed great alignment with the GBSD mission, with national policy. In fact, Mr. Kendall, the new secretary, used to be OSD ATNL, so he was the chief weapons buyer for the whole department. And one thing that I don't know that people realize is that the GBSD acquisition strategy and really everything that we're pursuing has been very consistent. Since President Obama's administration, when Mr. Kendall actually approved our ACT strategy, all the way back in the 2016 timeframe. So the Trump administration obviously updated the National Defense Strategy and NPR, but they were very consistent with what it was that Mr. Kendall and President Obama's administration put into motion. I think that's been very good for the GBSD acquisition because we've had great success over 7 years. In fact, I believe we've hit every single major milestone since 2014 when the AOA was approved by CAPE. And that's a pretty remarkable statistic for a project this big to actually be on time for 7 years. And I think the reason we've been so successful in that regard, a large part, is not only, I think, the great partnership that we've had between the MAGCOM and the Nuke Weapons Center working really closely together, but we've had also really great support from senior leadership at all levels. So this has been a great partnership, both with Congress and the building, but also especially with the warfighter and the acquirer. So if we go to next chart. Again, this is a total system replacement. I think you all know that, but we're replacing not just the missiles, but the C2, and the infrastructure is being significantly modernized. So that's, I think, pretty important for people to realize, because oftentimes when people think of GBSD, they only think of the missile. We did just celebrate our first year anniversary of the EMD contract. So this is quite a large acquisition. In fact, this is regarded as maybe the largest MILCON real estate NEPA activity that we've ever embarked on as a nation. In fact, the next 15 years, GBSD will probably be one of the largest projects on the face of the earth when it comes to just the size and scale of what it is that we're doing. And it's quite an exciting endeavor. And I wish we could share a little bit more, but on the unclassed line here, I'll give you sort of the wave tops. Now, again, I think you all be super pleased with the weapon system design and progress. I like to call the new system a warfighter-friendly design, an innovation-friendly design. As you all know, we're building, and the center or epicenter or the nucleus of this weapon system is here at Hill Air Force Base, which has been the home of the ICBM since the early 90s. It's also been the center of our sustainment activity. So one of the hallmarks of the new design is we know that we're designing something that's going to last through 2075. And just the amount of good thinking that's come in from the operators, the maintainers, and the defenders, a lot of that has been baked into the system. So I think as you see the features of the weapon system, and we had General Cotton here just last week, and we were able to show him the details, and he got his hands on the system. I think, two things that I think sort of surprises me is, 1 year in, just how mature the design is. And I think that maturity of the design has really come on the back of how well we've been collaborating with industry over the last 7 years. And so I think you'd be quite surprised at how far along Northrop is in the design. I think the other thing that is quite incredible is that Northrop has poured a Minuteman III silo and has already started the conversion to a common configuration for all the LFs. And we got to walk around that site, and it's quite a thing to behold, looking, from the bottom of a construction site all the way up to the top of an LF, and seeing the conversion activity going on. And there's a lot of learning going on through that process. But again, I think everybody online would be really pleased to hear just, the progress that's being made. And again, I can't emphasize enough, how important it's been to get the voice of the warfighter in early. As you may have heard, we're pursuing a modular design. And so the system is a flexible, more modular architecture, a lot of features very similar to what you might have remembered in Peacekeeper. I think there's some other pieces that I think would be pleasing to a lot of the folks online in terms of how it is that's going to sustain, how we're going to sustain the system. If you haven't seen the size of the missile or what it looks like, I think if you go to Northrop Grumman's website, I think you'll get some early views of what the missile looks like. Again, it's a medium class missile. So for the casual observer, the size of the missile looks very similar to Minuteman III, but there are quite a bit of features up and down it that I think will make it a safer, more secure system. I think the features of the LF and the LC, again, really addresses things that we think are going to be very, very advantageous, not only in the operation and the securing of the system, but also to keep pace with the adversary over the next 50 years. We are all in on digital engineering. I think you've heard that GBSD is really leading not just the Air Force, but the whole department in the migration to the digital world. We have a pretty incredible capability that we've developed with our industry partners that allows us to really see and interact with the weapon system in ways that I think are pretty profound. during the pre-development phase about 3 years ago, we did large-scale cost capability technical exchanges where we examined billions of different configurations of the weapon system. And when I say billions, I mean literally billions. And the digital engineering and model-based systems engineering environment allows us to do that, to understand what the requirements were doing to the cost and schedule risk of the weapon system. And lastly, we have grown from a very, very small activity here at Hill Air Force Base to a pretty respectable sized organization. 2014, we only had three guys on the project and a German Shepherd. And now we're up to about 1,200 folks on the government side, and Northrop Grumman has moved their headquarters here to Hill Air Force Base. And we really are starting to get our sea legs under us and making great progress. So we really appreciate all the support that we're getting from this community. We'd love to share with you all as many details as possible of the new weapon system. I think you all would be extremely proud of the work that's being done by these airmen. The next generation of these maintainers, sustainers, and operators, along with these engineers and loggies, are really passionate about this weapon system. And we just are super excited. We are on pace right now to fly the first sortie. Right now, Northrop Grumman is pressing hard to fly in December of 2023, which is just around the corner. So get your lawn chairs ready and let's head out to Vandenberg and be ready to see that first flight. For the Air Force perspective, the way we structure the acquisition is they have, quite a nice buffer of margin that if we don't fly that first flight for several months, we're still on track for IOC. But Northrop Grumman is all in to get that first sortie up and out of a hole. Jim, those were the comments I had. I'd be curious if anyone had any specific questions for us.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. So one comment did pop up, and it's one of those grammatical things. You say operate through 2075, and then in the second line beyond 2075. I think you're saying the same thing. Is to get past 2075 for the new weapon system, right?
That's correct. I mean, it's hard for us to predict the future, Jim, although we try very desperately hard at it. But we see this weapon system needing to operate at least to 2075 before whatever replaces GBSD will begin that replacement activity. So I think that's the proper way to interpret it, Jim.
Yeah, another question popped up, and I realizing classification, I don't know how much of this you can talk about, but how would you compare GBSD to Minuteman III as far as weight range, retargeting capability, et cetera?
So I think for the operators and the planners, some of the limitations of Minuteman III that I think we've wanted to see changed for a long time are actually being changed. And I think I'll let you all just imagine what those capabilities are, but I think you all be extremely pleased with that. And also, I think that the size of the booster is going to be able to sort of meet really any contingency that I think you all can imagine that we would need to meet over the next 50 years. So when you look at the missile, it is a little bit bigger. I think a casual observer probably would have a hard time seeing that it is, but I think what you'll see is that the new booster size is squarely in STRATCOM's intent for the operational range.
Yeah, I think, for all of the older folks on the line here, everything that ever bothered us about Minuteman operations is sustainment you guys are attacking.
That's right, because a lot of those guys had the right in with the requirements owners. And I think what's been really good, Jim, and again, I can't emphasize enough about, actually developing this weapon system at a sustainment base. It seemed like such a terrifying thing to many because, we've never developed anything at Hill Air Force Base at this size and scale. This is usually done at a Wright-Patterson or a Los Angeles. And I think there was a little bit of trepidation by, senior department leadership about whether or not, the Hill Air Force Base team could actually pull this acquisition together. And if it wasn't for our experience in the Minuteman and our experience with Peacekeeper and the fact that we know we need to have this major capital investment in the inventory for so long, I think that, you know, I guess the risk of doing it is really paying off, because what you're seeing is the things that have bothered the operators and the maintainers and the defenders were baked into the requirements very early. And then I think what we're finding is the Air Force is actually sending really top talent. So we've got a melting pot of a program office. So if I think about my leadership team, I have people from Los Angeles, Wright-Patterson, Hanscom. I got people from the Navy. They're all being vectored out here. And so what you really have is kind of a who's who of, you know, rising talent in acquisition mixed right in with your sustainment folks. And I'll tell you, you know, just the last 2 days, we had an agile big room planning event where we had between 300 and 400 people at the Davis Conference Center, all from the program office, working through integration challenges. And with COVID, some of those people have never met the first time. And what was really neat is that, you know, you had people from all over the country participating. And with the digital, Jim, we're moving into the cloud. And now that we have a cloud digital backbone, you know, we are moving quickly into a nationwide program office. And we actually now have govies that are sitting at Hanscom, govies sitting in DC. We've got govies sitting down in Kirtland, and you'll see others in a couple of other places where, you know, we really have a nationwide program office that, you know, dare I say it, could even be better than BMO, because we're not tethered just to Southern California. We're actually tapping into the whole national fabric of talent. So, you know, it's a bumpy ride, Jim, a lot of challenges, but for 1 year in, you know, we are making some pretty big strides.
That's exciting to hear that you're getting the best of the best, that now the ICBM program office is a place that people want to go, or at least, you know, work from a remote location. That's fantastic. Colonel Quigley and Colonel Bartolome, can you talk about the dance that you're going to have to do with deactivation and deployment? I know you probably can't get into specifics about whether it's one base at a time or how it's going to be yet, but can you talk about that a little bit?
I'll just open that up to say, on our side of the fence in Minuteman, we have a robust planning effort going on for the deactivation, demil, and disposal. And we have teamed very closely with Colonel Bartolome's team for the deployment. So we call it the D4 IPT, and they are planning every single effort there to make this happen, because, you know, a conversion rate of one launch facility a week for 9 years straight, you know, Minuteman has to get out of the way in time to do that. And so we are planning and putting things on contract now, including acquiring big white trucks, you know, for transportation and handling. And, you know, we'll make sure, I took a note, get you some equipment possibly for a museum. We are doing all that planning now. We are lead time away to do that. And yeah, I think the actual order of service is a higher, you know, is probably something we shouldn't say on the open line, but that planning is in work. We are working closely with Global Strike Command and 20th Air Force to knock that out. Over to Colonel Bartolome, if you want to add to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, just the size and scale. So, you know, we describe GBSD as a mega project. And when we talk about the Minuteman III to GBSD conversion, you know, this could quite easily be the largest sustained military movement in U.S. history. I mean, you know, again, to operate Minuteman III, to start the conversion once a week for 9 years, to operate both weapon system, and then fully transition into the new posture is really just an incredible and mind-boggling. But I think what you're going to see is our teams are we've already built what I would call sort of a JOC or an AOC for the transition. So Colonel Quigley and I are taking full advantage of the data we've been collecting on the Minuteman III. We've been moving in to a GIS environment where we're able to actually represent the wings and the data. You know, we're already looking at how it is that we're going to sequence through the wings. So we're able to sort of consider weather, consider topography, geography, road conditions, and we're baking that into what is really, just an ops research dream of, how it is that you sequence and execute a mission through those missile fields. And so I would say, Jim, that I think you all will be heartened how much energy is already going into that. I think that it is really an incredible job. We've got great leaders. I think the best of us, both on the Minuteman III side and the GBSD side, I can say that our best leaders are the ones that we're throwing into that mix right now. And I think that, when we get a 1 or 2 star STATAF commander rocking and rolling through those wings here in the next few years, that commander, that general is going to be ready with a lot of data and a lot of ammunition to help guide this one, because that is a major contingency operation. And, I don't mean that to be pejorative or exaggerative. It is going to be an incredible thing to get those missile wings.
That's fantastic. There's a couple other questions popped up. General Cotton, there's going to be one for you later on the name for GBSD. One last for Colonel Quigley, actually for both of you. We assume that all of the Minuteman III motors are going to go to RSLP or some program like that. There's, as you said, a good deactivation program. Is that true?
Yes, we have reached out to RSLP, and even the Missile Defense Agency perhaps could reuse some of the boosters as interceptors, those kind of things. We're looking at that right now. We have a small commitment, not as much of a commitment as you'd think so far, people raising their hand wanting the boosters like they did with Minuteman II, but we are active in those conversations. Yes.
Awesome. Well, gentlemen, I appreciate your time on a Saturday morning. This has been fantastic. I wish we could spend another hour with you. Maybe a year from now, when we're there in person, we might get a chance to visit with you and see some of your facilities. We look forward to COVID not causing us problems in the future. Best of luck to all of your teams in the work. Thank you for supporting this very special system to us. And we look forward to seeing you in person someday. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will now turn it over to General Lord to introduce and start a chat with General Cotton. Welcome, General Lord.
Thank you, Jim. Again, thanks to Eric and Jason for a tremendous overview of what's going on in a very, very important time now, and it will certainly get even more important as the days pass. And we're really, really excited to hear about that, and appreciate your expertise and how you're doing your jobs and making things happen. So we're proud of that, and we're excited about the future. That's for sure. It's my honor to introduce for kind of a fireside chat, if you will, back and forth with our senior guest today, General Tony Cotton, the commander of Air Force Global Strike. And you all know, I think from your background, you understand what Tony's done in this business. I mean, he served at every level, started as a crew member at Minot Air Force Base, and has been involved all over, commander of weighing at Malmstrom, and involved in the space business as well. We went through that business of missileers and space, and kind of working the transition issues. Commander of Air University, commander of 20th Air Force, and deputy at the Air Force Global Strike, and now the 4-star. So on behalf of the whole Air Force Association of Air Force Missileers, congratulations, General Cotton, on your assumption. And now that the bloom is off the rose, and you've had a chance to celebrate the transition to be the 4-star commander and be part of the Major Command support to our chief, General Brown, I want to start off with one question. What's it feel like now being at the top of the stack?
Well, General Lord, first, thanks a lot. Jim, it's great seeing you. I pinch myself every day, to be frank, General Lord. So for folks that are on the line, and I hope you really took in what Eric and Jason Bartolome presented to you. So before I answer that question, I just want to kind of foot stomp, and I know there's going to be other questions in regards to Minuteman III and GBSD. We have a powerhouse team working GBSD, as you guys just saw firsthand with Colonel Bartolome as the lead. We have a powerhouse team with Eric Quigley and a team on sustainability and maintainability of the Minuteman III until we get that transition. Which, to be frank, what I tell people, and you've heard Jason say it, he called it a mega project, and it is. I was just there at Hill 2 weeks ago, and you guys would, here's my messaging for almost every portfolio that we own within Global Strike Command. It's not artist renderings anymore. And General Lord, I told you that when we spoke on the phone. It's more than artist renderings. There are folks out there that are writing articles and things that are thinking that we're trying to ask for an acquisition project. GBSD is 5 years old. They've already poured concrete. They're already modeling missiles. They're already doing all the things that you'll hear in some of the articles that we're sitting here trying to figure out how to relitigate a conversation on being able to life extend the Minuteman III. We're past that, and we can talk much more on that if you like. But it's the team at Hill that's making all this a reality to us. And I know, General Ward, you're going to ask me a little more specific questions on, as the operator, as a JFAC to Strategic Command, what does that mean as far as for defenders, maintainers, and operators on the me being a customer receiving that product that's coming from Jason and the team. So now going back to what's it feel like being that second lieutenant at Minot, North Dakota, that never even thought of. I will admit, so when I worked for Denny Abbey, and I know there's some Minot guys on the line. I saw Scooters on the line. When I worked for Denny Abbey and Ed Bailey in the front office, I did say, I wouldn't mind being a wing commander one day. This is kind of a cool gig, watching the boss and seeing what he has to do. That's the Lord helped us, and there's always a little bit about luck and timing, right? And I had opportunity to do that twice. One with Wing 1 at 341st, and the other one, commanding Patrick. So that's all I really asked for. So all this is cherry on top, sir. And for those who don't know, when I wear my service dress, the second star that actually that shows when I made Brigadier General, Lance Lord, General Lord gave me his another set of stars and said, "You're going to be a 2-star and more one day." So I pinned on his stars from Major General. So to this day, now that I'm a 4-star, when you look at my service dress, 4 of those 8 stars are Lance Lord stars that's on my service dress. So when we talk about the Association of Air Force Missileers and the men and women that are on this line, I stand on your shoulders and hope I will represent you well, not as only the top missileer in the United States Air Force, but as the JFAC in charge of 2 legs of the triad to represent our nuclear deterrence. So I'm just as steeped in the 8th Air Force business as I am in the 20th Air Force business. And the reason I can do that is because of the things that I have learned. And I see Colonel Ellen, my first DO online, for being able to raise me and grow me to be the man that I am, to be able to command such a great organization as Global Strike Command.
General Cotton, thanks. And as I told you when we talked, I said, you put those stars on your shoulder and they kind of multiply in the closet there after you put your service dress away. But to follow on that line, I want to kind of, for those who are on the line and also those that you talk to day to day, how do you communicate the fact that your ICBM experience and what you learned at the operational level and working with the people in the units really paid off as you advanced through the, through your jobs and all the way to your point now where you have all these, so to speak, balls in the air. And as General Chilton used to say, and all of them are crystal. you can't drop one of them. So, I mean, how did that help shape your path?
Yeah, I tell you, so we are, I'm a SAC born killer, right? I was born, I was a second lieutenant that started out in Strategic Air Command. I just retired Mike Morgan yesterday from civil service. For those who remember Mike, the Minot Mike Morgan, not the Grand Forks Mike Morgan. So Joe knows exactly. Joe Hogla, I see him give a thumbs up. 44 years of service. And Mike brought up a great point, I think, yesterday. As much as we cherish and love our time with Strategic Air Command, I will say that Air Force Global Strike Command is not Strategic Air Command. I think we have grown to become even better, and that's kind of a neat thing to say if you really think about it. On those that really might have that tattoo over their heart on SAC. What SAC taught me is attention to detail. What a lot of people will say is, well, SAC may have taught you compliance. That's the difference between, I think, where we are in Global Strike Command as opposed to where we were with SAC, right? So being a compliance-driven command actually got us into some bad behavior. Being an attention to detail command gets us to where we are today. So I think what I learned as a lieutenant and what I learned in my times, even as a wing commander at the 341st, was attention to detail. And I will tell you, it doesn't look like that's probably a subset of what a lot of our young folks come into the service with today, with attention to detail. And here's where I have to have a conversation to say, hey, I'm not talking about being compliant. I'm talking about having an attention to detail where the compliance regulations and everything will fall into place because you're doing it right from the start. What they'll sometimes have a conversation with us is, well, then, sir, you're saying not to be innovative. Well, I will tell you, if you were to visit any of the 3 missile wings today, it looks nothing like the missile wings of the past. So we have been incredibly innovative across the decades. So that's a false sense to be able to kind of drop on that. So I think being able to take what I would call that attention to detail that I know every single person on the screen is shaking their head up and down, regardless if you're a maintainer or operator, on what we've done in this business, because it is a no-fail mission. And being able to do that, incorporated on how we can roll it into modernized products and ways of taking care of our airmen. That's really, Lance, what I like prescribing to people. So real quick, I have 4 pillars for Air Force Global Strike Command. People, because I own the entire operational career field for 13 Ns. Unlike even ACC, who doesn't own all their career fields, even of their pilots. I own all the 11 Bravos, which are bomber pilots. I own all the 12 Bravos. So when you think about that, the MAJCOM owns a career field, so you would think that they should be able to professionally develop that career field internal better than anyone else. So that is one of my pillars, is people, and within that is professional development, as well as technical development, as well as quality of life activities for their families. The second one is mission. And we'll talk more about this as the Bright Shiny is the 6 modernization programs that we own within Global Strike Command, which are in the top 10 of all modernization programs in the United States Air Force currently today. But to be frank, I have to be able to fight tonight, and I have to be able to tell Admiral Richard tonight that my assets in 8th Air Force and 20th Air Force are ready to go. So the mission in that point is very important to us as we talk about transitioning to the new weapon systems off of legacy. and that's both for 8th Air Force and 20th Air Force. But I have to be able to make sure my legacy systems, the readiness is ready right now, today. And we can talk a little more about the two adversaries that we're dealing with. The other one is engagement. For me, doing things like this, making sure folks that can kind of speak on our behalf for our portfolios and for our mission sets. I've been on a whirlwind tour and have told my senior leadership team to be on a whirlwind tour as well, to ensure that that they get this right, so we can articulate what the mission set is for us, right? So we have to make sure that we, as Global Strike Command, because here's the reality of it, our portfolio. I fight just as much with my Air Force brothers and sisters on the portfolio as I do with external customers on the portfolio, right? So this mission set is, as I think General Welch told me when I was announced, Larry Welch, he says, "Hey Tony, so just like I've told every other commander of Global Strike Command, I'm going to tell you." He says, "So when I was SINCSAC and when I was a chief, your portfolio of strategic deterrence was a presidential portfolio, and I just managed it for him." Today, people see it as it's T-Ray's portfolio, and now it's your portfolio within the Air Force, right? So that's a whole different language set that you're going to have to be able to do to make sure you carry it out, because people don't see it as a national portfolio; they see it as a MAJCOM commander's portfolio. And that's not true. I will tell you the insight that we're getting from the Secretary of the Air Force, that I think that's changing very, very quickly. Secretary Kendall absolutely sees this as his portfolio, and to ensure that we get this across the finish line, because he knows that it's a national imperative and part of the national defense of this nation. So we have a big advocate with the chief. So I'll pause there, but long answer to a question, but one that's really I'm passionate about.
General Cotton, very well said. Let me follow on with that just with one little, because we were going to ask this question, but I think it's you raised it really well about attention to detail. Would you say that's your number one major lesson learned as you come up through the business that's paid off for you, is to pay attention and really understand the details of the business, how they fit in the overall big picture, despite what your MAJCOM commander buddies and friends would say about how important their portfolio is compared to yours. But the nation has got to realize how critical this is to the future success.
Yes, sir. And you had to fight yourself. So you absolutely understand the comments that I'm making. But attention to detail is what won the day. And to be frank, I learned quite a bit from a bomber pilot that just handed the flag to me. Tim Ray was a very detail-oriented, attention to detail, data-driven senior officer. And that's what wins the fight at the end of the day. And what I try to tell folks is being overly emotional about it doesn't really win you much if you don't have the data to back it. So what I'd rather folks come up with is let's come up with the data. Let's come up with the rationales and the COAs to be able to stand our ground, to explain why we need something or why we don't need something, and use that as a catalyst to win the fight at the end of the day. And to be frank, I think the Nuke Weapons Center with Jay Bart and Eric and the team have gone down that path, and there's a lot of data-driven things that people just can't rationalize their way out of when you come out. That's the problem, right? People will try to rationalize their way out of an argument by using rationalization that's irrational. Well, if you have data that can support and further show their irrationality of their talking points, it actually wins the day. And that's what we've seen in the past 2 years, because I will tell you, T-Ray, and I was able to watch him as the DCOM, did so much to really kind of level set a lot of the programs to make it so we actually plugged up any little holes that we may have had where people might be able to kind of breach, if you will, by thinking that there were some holes or some arguments that were left to argue in regards on the modernization of our programs. And I'll pause there.
So if you're a new airman coming to Minot or coming to Malmstrom or Cheyenne, and you're excited and heard about the ground-based strategic deterrent coming in the future, how do you stay excited about what you're doing today and look into the future and be part of what you've got to do, focus on your day-to-day mission, but also think about where it might be 10, 15 years from now as you mature through the system? How do you stay excited in that kind of environment?
Well, I think it's easy, and I saw it in the eyes. So last week I went to Vandenberg, and I spoke to the class at Vandenberg, and there were maintainers and there were operators in the class. And I was at the 381st training group, and I was able to have an opportunity to talk to them. And I will tell you, it was amazing because, as you had alluded to, I was the commander. So I was in your position. I was the AU commander, right? So I visited the schoolhouse quite a bit. I visited the schoolhouse when I was at AU. I visited the schoolhouse quite often when I was at 20th Air Force. So when I was at 20th Air Force, it was interesting. Even though it was in 2015, that was actually probably a year before we really knew where GBSD was going to go, because it was laid out in probably 2016 timeframe. So as a wing commander and as a MAF commander, the best I could tell the airmen that were in the room is, hey, I am a Minuteman III operator, and it's a mission that's critical to the defense of our nation, et cetera, et cetera. But the fact of the matter is, they're looking at a 50-plus-year-old man, and the best I could tell them is they're going to work on a weapon system that is the exact weapon system that I pulled crew on. I went back last week and had the conversation with the young airmen, and I said, hey, folks, so guess what happens in 10 years? In 10 years, 2 of you will probably be at wings that are already in the midst of transition to GBSD. And the third wing is in the middle of the transition of GBSD. Most of you will be brand new field grade officers, either on alert at a GBSD wing or setting a wing up for its transition of GBSD. And you maintainers, the exact same thing. It's the first time, General Lord, that I've actually really kind of see kind of that sparkle in people's eyes to say that, hey, look at, man, this is a real thing. It's real. And we're really going to be part of something that's new. I think in the last, when you guys were asking questions with Jason, you were talking about, what will Minuteman III, comparable Minuteman III GBSD as far as the weapon itself. It's giving the COCON commander exactly what it wants. From the perspective of a maintainer, defender, and operator, it's giving us exactly what we need to do mission planning, if you will, for a 21st century weapon system. I couldn't say that even in 2015. And now you can say that. You can say the exact same thing when you go visit the Northern Tier and visit the 90th, the 91st, and the 341st. I couldn't say that as a 20th Air Force commander. As a 20th Air Force commander, the best I could do is say, this is what we're looking to do. And we think we're on a really good path. Now I can say it's not an artist rendering. Mike Lutton has sent folks to Northrop Grumman to actually sit on consoles to get some human engineering aspects on what things should look like. And it's a real thing. So their eyes lit up, knowing that we actually are going to get to a place where the Minuteman III is going to get replaced with a new weapon system. So defenders, maintainers, and operators, I think, are really excited.
Well, in this environment, you can always count on your opponents and our adversaries to, take note of what we're doing. But as the threat increases, and I think that's becoming very well aware across our U.S. government, and the people understanding that whatever happens with the nuclear posture review will have to be viewed in that sense. So I know that and they know that that's something we have to deal with and really be make sure we don't lose sight of. As this evolves, though, the concept of ops for operations, maintenance, security have got to change. I'm sure, and I know you were thinking about that. So, any insight you can tell us about how that's going to, one, help shape the future and keep us ahead of that, and then just to add on to that, what's the manpower loading or person power loading look like versus where we are now?
Yeah, so thanks for that. So right now we're still in early concepts, but to be frank, we're already having design. So we can, I'll talk a little bit. I made sure with my 5.8 guys I wasn't saying anything I wasn't supposed to get me in trouble, and they cleared me hot. So one of the things, and Jason, if you're still on too, you can clear me hot too as a program manager of the program. So one of the things we had an opportunity to look. I signed off the MERS. So I signed off the manpower requirements document as the DCOM last year. I will tell you, I was a little frustrated because what we did was we actually loaded the manpower. It looks exactly the same as it was from Minuteman III. And I will tell you for an absolute fact and guarantee it better not. Because of the efficiencies that we're going to get with the modernization of the programs that we're going to do, whether it comes to security, whether it comes to the maintenance requirements that are in the launch center, as well as the LF itself. There are some things that I think we're going to get efficiencies with, and I see Jason's online too. So let me give you an example of what I'm talking about, and then Jason, you can say, General, you need to stop. So when I visited a facility at Northrop Grumman, and we already had kind of built out what we kind of have in our head for the maintainers. Think about the current launch facility of a Minuteman III, and think about how it is laid out, and think about the launch support building, which is, air quotes, below ground. But we all know it really isn't, right? It's just kind of a subterranean thing where we have our MMP or MPPs or topside support equipment, diesels, and everything else. All the other work is in the LER. So all the other work that we have to do with the Minuteman III system, we have to penetrate the site. They've come up with a design that makes that so it is a phased approach on how you do that. So if you have FMTers that are going to go out and just do topside maintenance, what we call old school topside maintenance, guess what? The LSB isn't just, let's crack OZ and go to the launch of support building, which really isn't protected at all except from the elements. What you're really going to have now is you're going to have an MEC, so a maintenance equipment complex. That's actually, and did I call that right, Jason? The MEC?
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
That's below ground, hip hardened, by the way. And then there's phasing of security on being able to get to the motor generator piece, the diesel piece, or if in fact you have to make your way to the missile. So think about that as far as having a defenders go out with the FMT team because they broke OZ today, just to check fluid levels on the diesel, right? We don't have to do that with GBSD because you will be able to be in contact with the ICC. They will know that you're out there. You'll break plane to go and do work to where you need to go in a hip hardened environment, by the way, and work on the diesel. You don't need access to the missile. So you won't have access to the missile. So that's how they're kind of building that out. I'll give you another example as far as what we're talking about is maintenance and how how they are building into the missile itself extendability, because I saw a question about PDMs. Yeah, the Northrop Grumman guys, and I think it might be a little exaggeration, but we're talking about the launch and closure door. The reality is we can in place GBSD. You probably won't have to roll the door until you're doing launch and closure door PDM 8 years later, because we probably will never roll that door again. Because all the work, unless we're doing an RV demate or something because of the weapon itself, there'll be no reason to roll the door, because all MGS work and anything below that happens without rolling the door. Think about that. And think about the security requirements that would be required, because that's the most vulnerable time that we have is when we're rolling that door today. You know, that blew my mind. Now we go to the launch center. The launch center isn't a capsule. It's a below ground ops center. It has a separate sleeping quarters. It has a separate bathroom quarters. It has a knowledge wall instead of what we see as REACT or what we would have seen as a LSMIP. They have all the SA on what's going on in their flight area. They have all the SA and what's going on in their, and when I say SA, I'm talking right now, as we all know, the only SA we truly have as missileers on what's going on topside is through our flight controller. They will be able to see it themselves. And now we are working on TTPs on. So do we want our 13 ends to worry about security, or do we want 13 ends to worry about mission systems? And we're probably going to go to mission systems, right? And we can have somebody else worry about security. Not that we're not going to have the 13 ends, and we're still working through all that. And Jason and the team are coming up, and then my 3, we'll come up with all those different codes, and we have plenty of time to do that. But I think, General Lord, just those 2 examples show you what we mean by what the manpower will look like when we talk about what GBSD will bring to the fight, as opposed to what we have and the exposure that we currently have, because it is about security. The exposure that the Minuteman III exposes me as a commander of Global Strike Command to each and every day. And I saw it even as a wing commander at the 341st, and all my wing commanders there today. That exposure is something that will maybe not necessarily be eliminated, but will be drastically reduced. And I'll pause there.
Oh, very good. Thank you for that, because that shows the what both Eric and Jason talked about earlier, the integration of the digital capability to be able to look at options and do the digital twin, if you will, and work the pluses and minuses in the system. And you've gone to a new level of integration of your people with respect to the overall mission, which I think is a really powerful way to go forward. And
sorry, if I can I talk a little bit about that, because the digital engineering piece, because I caught the last of Jason's piece. So I will tell you, just so you guys and pat yourselves on the back, all of you. The GBSD program, acquisition program, is seen as the gold standard by the acquisition community in the Department of Defense, regardless on what people talk about as far as cost. So kind of put that off to the side when you hear the naysayers talk about a cost of a 40-year-old program, right? So GBSD is a program that that I will tell you, it's 20 years too late. It's 20 years late. It is what it is where we are now. But we've integrated it to become a 40-year plus system. And when you heard Jason talk about the digital engineering piece that's happening in regards to that, what's important to note is he can demonstrate that, right? Because a lot of folks talk about DE and digital engineering. People shake their head up and down and say, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I have no idea what you're talking about. He actually demonstrates and shows us. And what it also will do, what he's doing in some of his facilities right now at Hill Air Force Base will actually be used by us and Air Force Global Strike Command moving forward on the maintaining of that system and understanding that open architecture on how we can continue to modify that system to keep up with our adversaries, which, by the way, we can't currently do with the Minuteman III system because it was designed kind of as a closed system, right? A good example is 2 adversaries versus 1 that I'm dealing with right now that none of you had to deal with, right? We've never had 2 near peer adversaries, nation state adversaries before. It was always Soviet Union, Russia. Now it's Russia and China. And to be frank, we're really just trying to figure out when China is going to overtake Russia as the #1 threat. It is the pacing threat for us in the department, and the strategic Commander Stratcom has already said so. So that digital engineering piece is not something that should be kind of tossed off to the side on a, yeah, that's kind of cool. That's really foundational to the success of GBSD as well as our B-21 program. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, very well. One of the questions I saw pop up as well, and you and I mentioned in our previous phone call, was really about what the name of the system will be, and without getting too politically involved or whatever. But what can you say about, once we get through with the mouthful of GBSD, what might be next?
Yeah, so General Hyten even picked on me at AFA. General Hyten said I wanted to retire, Tony, and I wanted to have the name announced before I retired. And here we go. It's going to be GBSD. And I said, sir, so I'll let you guys peep under the tent. I'm not going to. The name has already been determined. And no, it is not Excalibur that I saw. But the name was determined. It was determined last December, by the way. And it was approved by the secretary and the chief. I will tell you, the reason we did not do the announcement during AFA was because of the NPR. And what we wanted to make sure is we didn't want to box the administration into something. We're actually feeling very, very comfortable on what the NPR is going to say. But the reality is that the senior leadership team decided, because we did put forth a hey, can we announce it then? And the answer was, yeah, let's wait to post NPR and we'll do a huge rollout, even if it's out of cycle from an AFA, but we'll make it a huge rollout, just like we would do with any other major weapon system. But let's wait for the administration to come out with their NPR results. So that's letting you peep under the tent on the reality of where we are on the name of GBSD. I can tell you it's a LGM 35, if that helps.
LGM 35, we got it. After the LGM 30, that's good. Yeah. So no, thank you very much. I know everybody was concerned about why it's taken so long, and I talked to General Brown, the chief, about this as well. And by the way, my conversations with him really reflect back on you and the whole team. I mean, he's so proud of what's going on in Global Strike Command. I just hope those messages are, and I'm sure you are, transmitting them down to the younger people to say, look, despite what you hear about all these other shiny things that are going on, this is really, really fundamental to our Air Force and certainly to the defense of the nation.
Yeah, thank you, General Ward. I think we had what, north of 100 folks even go to AFA that were part of 20th Air Force and 8th Air Force. And what was really unique about that was, they walked away and said, "Sir, we kind of noticed that Global Strike Command was actually kind of belle of the ball," and for kind of take that away. And the reason they were saying that was because if you listen to senior leaders. If you listen to what the A3 was saying as far as what dynamic force employment was during COVID, he talked about 365-day alerts of Minuteman III, and COVID didn't affect Global Strike Command. That's from the half A3, right? He talked about the BTFs, the Bomber Task Force that happened when ACC kind of took a knee because the fighter force was down, but the bomber forces were still flying all over the world in the middle of COVID and having allies and partners fly up to their wing to show those alliances, and that happened in the midst of COVID. They talk about GBSD from the secretary and the chief and how it's a national imperative. They talk about the B-21 and how it's a national imperative. It was kind of neat, really. Not that I like picking on my bros that fly smaller airplanes, but it was kind of neat that we were kind of the bells of the ball, and the taglines on most of the articles that came out for this AFA, as opposed to some fifth generation fighter. They were talking about 5.5 generation bombers, and they were talking about GBSD, and that's what a lot of the articles that came out on AFA, that was a headline. So there's a pride there, General Lord, that they get that sense and they understand. And to be frank, I think it's my role and my job to make sure that they don't see all the nonsense that's below the waterline. I'll protect them from all of that to ensure that they understand that they're getting taken care of. Over.
Well, I think that's a tremendous mission you've taken on as well. And as you look back at the foundations of the Air Force and kind of see how the family tree of the Air Force emerged and what sides were dominant when, I think the Global Strike mission set and the future is really, back on the rise, so to speak. And our young people don't really realize in history kind of how things have evolved, but this is a great time for you and the people that serve for you and serve with you to really understand. So great work, that's for sure. So one of my last questions then, before we see if there's others that would like to ask questions, the integrated teams using the skills and abilities of all the people you've got is really a powerful thing. Do you think the numbers, which we talked about early on, will change as more people become familiar with this mission set in the future, and there'll be more places for folks with GBSD experience, if you will, to move throughout the Air Force and other parts of DoD?
Yes, sir. So you remember I talked about people, right? And part of that people, and when we talk about professional development and talent management, we're taking that on in Global Strike Command since I own those portfolios, right? We're talking about 13 Ns, 11 Bravos, 12 Bravos. We have been very deliberate on positions, even senior positions throughout the DAF, but even in COCOMs, to ensure that we have folks that can kind of speak on our behalf. Because what I have found, and I first noticed it when I was the DCOM, is a lot of it is out of ignorance and not understanding the portfolio. What's really funny, and we had this conversation when I was at Air University, was how do we make sure that we make it so every airman understands the entire portfolio of the department, to be able to articulate it, because at that time, General Goldfein would say, I'm not looking at the badges above the nameplate, I'm looking at US Air Force. So when you are an airman, a senior airman, and you're asked a question in regards to, the bomber force or the nuclear, deterrence portfolio at large, you can't kind of go, well, hold on, let me find a missileer or a bomber guy that can kind of answer that question for you. And that's kind of where we've been for a number of years. I found that I wasn't going to be able to solve that problem. I tried and it just didn't work. I mean, you tried, and we know that there's just some inertia there that kind of prevents that from happening. But what I can do as the commander of Global Strike Command is, as a matter of fact, I just had a meeting with GOMO 2 days ago, because we're going to talk 1-star, 2-star, 3-star placements here in Corona in a couple of weeks, is managing to put people in the exact right places, right? So right now, when you see SL Davis as the AQP, when you see different, whether it's a bomber person or a missile person in particular jobs that are influential positions within the department, I'm going to make sure that we can stick folks in there. The problem in the past is we just kind of like ignored those positions because we were really insular. And by doing that, we lost some ground, I think. So being able to do that, I think is going to, not necessarily course correct, but it will help me tremendously in being able to message. I will tell you the best messenger I have right now in the Pentagon is actually Opie Dawkins, who is not a missileer, but the former 8th Air Force commander who's the current A-10. He is an incredible partner, but that position, for example, is one that's incredibly important. And I put my fingers all over who goes in that position, even though that position at A-10 actually, works for the chief. The chief will, no kidding, call and say, okay, Tony, who do you want to be? Or in the past, T-Ray, who do you want to be the A-10? I mean, that's how critical that position is, because, Barksdale isn't that we're not close enough where I can interact with the Pentagon, on a personal basis, like the A-10 can do on our behalf. So that's some of the things that we're doing. I think a lot of the folks are seeing that seeing those opportunities open up, General Lord. We're getting the manpower up for our Minuteman III crews. I saw that there was a shortfall in what we're doing there, where we kind of eliminated crossflow, for example. We're kind of opening up that, but I don't want it to be a Chinese menu of having some of our top talent just say, well, okay, I've done enough missiles, time for me to go somewhere else. We're going to have more influence on who leaves and who stays. So I'm excited about that. As part of that people piece of our four pillars, and making sure that we take care of talent management internal.
How about with respect to 3579 certification as airmen in the business, and how things will? I assume, I don't know, as I haven't looked at those career field plans for a long time, and but I assume we're expecting more out of them at the 3, 5, 7, and 9 levels, and how they'll be able to really shape the NCO leadership and the airman leadership that's coming up through the system. And we're going to depend more on what they're capable of doing, and we're going to ask more and they're going to deliver more. Is that a fair statement?
That's an absolute fair statement. And as you know, one of the things that we always have to kind of drill through is when, the chief's already said TOA is not going to change. So manpower is not really going to increase writ large. There's something that's already in place for the new programs, but for the Air Force writ large, we're not going to see a large increase in manpower. With that being said, though, when you start moving people around and putting people in new career fields, what we tend to see, and this is what we saw early, and I saw this as a 20th Air Force commander. So they said, hey, you guys are short defenders. So it sends us a whole bunch of defenders, but they're all 3-level defenders, right? So guess who trains 3-level defenders? 5 and 7 levels, right? So you're actually taking them out, right? So it's actually almost a detriment. But hey, I'm not gonna not take people. So we've worked through kind of how to do that. One of the things that we did, even when we were at AU, which I think 21st century maintenance will be an incredible part, and we didn't really talk about this, but this is the training piece that was also demonstrated from the contractor on GBSD, and maybe I can share this with you a little bit, is the 21st century technology and being able to have, literally they demonstrated with me, and this is something that we're seeing in bits and pieces within AETC, not across the entire portfolio. And we're small enough in Global Strike that I think we might be able to take this on ourselves internally if AETC does it. We actually saw a guy that was wearing one of those suits where that person can become an avatar. And he was in that mech that I described to you. And everything that he had, was all kind of connected to him. And he was able to virtually walk through that environment and do maintenance. And it was tactile. Next to him was a demonstration of, and you heard Jason talk about, GBSD will deliver new PTs, they will deliver new TEs, and it shows, and there was a cab of a TE, fully automated, but literally just like if you were driving for JB Hunt, it was a simulator that was a 3D simulator that showed you pick a site. Okay, I got to go to Mike 07. Okay, how am I going to be able to traverse even from the mission support base all the way out to Mike 07 and pull that TE in, pull that PT in, and drive that vehicle and get to the point that it was the fidelity. You might even get to the point where you can actually do certification, because in the civilian sector, you can actually certify on a sim, right? So that's the type of work that might help offset. My God, it's going to take me 6 months to get this 3 level up to being a 5 level, because I'm using because now I got to use my 5 level to get the 3 level to do that, where I might be able to use technology to help get that 3 level to 5 level status.
Oh, wow, that's exciting. Yeah, you might have to lower the or raise the age for us to come back into business. So, I mean, that's exciting times, and I think it's a tremendous tribute to you and your whole team, and the way that Eric and Jason have put the program together with support of the whole program team and top-down support. So, with congratulations, you. I'm going to turn it back to Jim and see if there's other questions that others might like to ask. But I appreciate your time on a Saturday morning, and we belong to you, so let us know what we can do to help you as an organization. And the whole membership is available anytime to help. And I know the communities are the 3 major communities of the bases are certainly leaning forward as well. We can help there as you need. So please give us a task anytime.
Yeah, thanks, General Lord. And Jim, before you jump into the questions, we're talking about the Nuke Weapons Center team with Eric for the sustainment of the Minuteman III system, and with Jason being a program manager for GBSD. But his teammate is a guy that I just pinned on last week, Dan Voorhees, who's now the vice commander of the 341st. Was the lead of our 5.8 for GBSD. William Wyford is the current lead, brand new colonel, ICBM guy, FE Warren background, squadron commander at Vandenberg. He is my lead there. So he's kind of my interlocutor on the operational requirements, as well as all those type of things that I've been mentioning from my perspective of being a JFAC and being the operational commander of Global Strike Command, in regards of what Jason and the team are doing with GBSD. So it's been an incredible relationship with our 5.8 team and Jason's team. So I wanted to make sure I gave a shout out to our 5.8 team, who's done some incredible work. And Jason Armagos is my new 5.8. Buffy Andy Jabera was my previous 5.8 who did a lot of heavy lifting on this. I just wanted to give them a shout out in the presence of all of you online to let you know that this has been a family affair from Global Strike Command, as well as the AFMC and the Air Force Nuke Weapons Center. So Jim, over to you.
Well, thanks. I guess I'll echo General Lord's comment. We are here to carry on the mission and the message. And so anything that we as an organization can do for Global Strike and for the Nuke Weapons Center, please reach out to us. We'd be glad to help. My first question comes from my background and my personal experience. When I was still on active duty in DRM, General Ryan, who was the chief at the time, talked about ICBMs providing the top cover for the AEF. Do we still see the strength of the triad in the 2 legs that you worry about, providing that ability to operate around the world? Is that still an essential?
Yeah, so I mean, from our perspective, Jim, the NPR is going to come out, and you've seen some writings on, whether or not, what's the administration going to do, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Here's what, and hopefully I can answer one of these questions that I think it says, General Cotton, can you elaborate on the growing threats that are out there? So I think I can tie these 2 together. So let's talk about China for a second. there's a couple of things with China that kind of bothers us. It's the rapidness of how they are expanding their force. We all know that right now, I can provide up to 400 ICBMs to Admiral Richard, as the JFAC for the Commander Stratcom. The Chinese already had a road mobile system. Open source has already articulated that probably by, I think, I don't know if it was the Washington Post or the New York Times that highlighted with unclassed imagery showing for the first time that the Chinese are using silo-based ICBMs. And they've already uncovered a couple of missile fields. So if you really think about this, and remember, we only have ICBMs that are silo-based or launch LF-based. In 18 months, the Chinese could have up to 360 silo-based ICBM missiles, in addition to what they have as road mobiles, which is what they started off with. That's one leg for them. So let's talk about their second leg. Their second leg, their submarine forces are already nuclear capable, where they originally started as a regional hegemon, and that's what everyone saw. All the theorists were saying that the Chinese are a second strike capability. They want to be a minimalist deterrent force. They just want you to leave them alone in their region, and they want to be a hegemonic region of their, and it's just regional. Okay, well, now they have a ICBM class submarines that are out there. That's their second leg. They just certified the H-6, which is their long-range bomber, and it's now designated. They have a fleet of H-6Ns. That is their B-52 nuclear-capable equivalent bombers. So guess what? The Chinese have a triad, and a formidable one, and one that can expand. And that's what's really kind of kind of shakes me up a little bit. Can expand really quickly because Xi just says go do, and it gets done. He doesn't have dialogue and conversation and talk about, do you really need to have a triad? He's building a triad. He has built a triad. And let's not forget the Russian forces, who have already modernized their forces and are about 85% modernized right now. They started modernizing their forces 20 years ago, and they're there. We're 16 years away. So that's, that's kind of where I stand on that. That's where General Race stood on that. When you hear the chief talk about accelerate, change, or lose, that's what we're talking about. If we keep playing too much longer on here, we're going to be shooting behind the duck.
Thank you, sir. The next question has to do, and you hinted on this a little bit. They're asking about what changes do you see that you have to make in affecting commissioning, for the 13N career field?
I don't know that I have to change anything as far as the sessions. We're doing pretty well on the sessions. What we messed up with, and I don't know if we messed up. What we need to modify is when I came back and became the decon, what I asked was, because the way we do it in the rated world is the A3 takes care of crew force management, and the 1 takes care of career field management. For the 13N career field, we always mush that together. So when we did that, the career field was looking pretty healthy. And the reason the career field is looking healthy is because what you would get is you get an out of balance on the right levels of officers that we needed at the right time. And the reason we did that was because we all saw it as 1 and managed it as 2. What I did was that we actually kind of split that out. I wanted to really understand career field management, because what I was finding that out in the field, we were overtaxing our crew force. They're pulling alerts at a rate that they weren't getting opportunities to go to weddings, get married, have vacations, and all that. The standbys were not standbys; they were going to go hard, and those kind of things. So how do we do crew force management different, kind of like they do on the rated side? So we took a crack at that. My teammates at A1, Lieutenant General BK Kelly, who is the A1 for the Air Force, is a great friend of mine. So I took on an action officer level work. So between myself as the DCOM, 20th Air Force Commander Mike Lutton, Fred Stoss started it with me, and then Mike Lutton, as well as the A1, and Opie Dawkins as the A10, who is the functional manager for the career field. But he does relegate, he does say, sir, but you're the senior missileer in the Air Force, so you're really the functional manager. And I say yes, and I take on that responsibility. Thank you very much. So those we worked it out last year to kind of figure out what our session numbers should look like. So it was really all about the session numbers. We had to tweak the session numbers to get the numbers up because our numbers were too low. So we cranked that rail stat up a little bit, and we got the session numbers up. That comes with a bill, as everyone knows, right? Because manpower comes with a bill. But what we took that on. I'm taking it out of Hyatt, out of our O&M, to be able to kind of fund and pay for that. And the half is actually helping me for 23, and then I'll palm for it in 24 and beyond.
I had a great opportunity, first time in too many years, to get back to the three wings a couple weeks ago, and got my first exposure to squadrons pulling alerts as a squadron. The wings reaction to COVID and how they handled it was just awesome. You want to talk a little bit about what's going on at the operational unit today?
Yeah, so for those who may or may not know, 24-hour alerts went away with COVID. It was something we had been thinking about for a while. COVID kind of drove that into a reality. So the benefit of that, to be frank, when I was at 20th, we actually started that with the defenders, and having defenders go out. If you recall, you could go out and there could be a SART team out there with a bunch of young airmen. I remember when I used to go out in the field and visit, and Ron, I would ask the young SART member, I said, so who's your supervisor? He's like A1C. And I said, when's the last time you spoke to your supervisor? Well, sir, I've never met my supervisor. They were either on different shifts or at different flight areas. So we can kind of figure out what that could cause as far as some problems. So as you guys recall, we did a whole revitalization of the career field. We actually nested, so squadron commanders, DOs, everyone from the defenders would go out as a unit. It actually gave them a dependable schedule, reliable schedule. It helped out for a lot of married folks. It was kind of funny. We did get some feedback when we did focus groups from some of the wives, because now the wives were saying, or spouses, I should say, maybe not just wives, that, well, heck, now they're here too much, and we were used to running the household without them, and now they're here. So that worked. So now we're making that. So we made that transition because that was the only way we were isolating our crew force for COVID, and this was the brainchild. To be frank, I give Fred Stoss all the credit as a 20th Air Force commander at the time. And we need to figure out how do we isolate the crew force so we make sure that COVID doesn't infiltrate into the crew force, because everyone thought that was going to happen. They said, oh my God, COVID's going to take it down because the ICBM force is a personnel driven mission. By isolating the crew force, and to be frank, we had them on 2-week alerts for the longest time. We transitioned that to a 1-week alert to give them some free time. Now, if you remember that conversation I was having about manpower sessions and making sure we have the manpower flow right, we made the requirements on 24-hour alerts. We did not develop requirements for 13 ends based on 7-day alerts. So we modified that. There's going to be a little hump and a bump for a little bit, but we'll get that right. Feedback I'm getting is a lot of folks like it. We still have some things we need to work for example, childcare and things like that. So how's that going to work? And making sure if you're gone for a week, that becomes a struggle and those kind of things. So we're working through those kind of things, Jim. But that's kind of where we are, and I think we're going to maintain it.
Yeah, it was interesting to, if you're at F.E. Warren and you're in the 320th, you're always going to pull alert in that squadron. And now the squadron goes out and covers the whole wing, which is totally unique. But it also gives the squadrons a lot of time to do their additional training and planning as a squadron. So we start seeing the mission planning and, more of the Air Force level thinking coming into the squadron, which I was totally impressed with. The other thing I was impressed with, and I'll ask you to comment on, and how it relates to GBSD, was at Malmstrom, the creation of the Wing Operations Center. And as a guy who was part of the team that wrote the initial ops concept for GBSD, everything that we wrote in that document, I see already happening at Malmstrom. Do you see that folding into the other Minuteman wings before we get there?
Yeah, so Malmstrom is going to be is kind of the so I think I thought I saw Sandy Finnan online. So the walk concept, I did the ribbon cutting on it as the wing commander, but that's really the brainchild of Sandy when she was a wing commander there. And then we turned that into an operational thing when I was a wing commander. So imagine this, and I don't know if Jason brought this up when we talked about GBSD, but GBSD actually takes the construct of the walk, and that will be the ICC that you will see in all wings, period. In the meantime, that walk construct, so Fred Stoss and now Mike Lutton are taking what we're seeing in the walk construct at Wing 1 at Malmstrom and seeing what they can do at the other wings as well, right? And because what makes that really, really work is everybody sits side by side. And I think that's what you probably saw firsthand, Jim, is that, so the mock, everything is all consolidated where people just look over to each other and say, okay, so what are you doing? So whether it's a defender, whether it's maintenance, whether it's CE, et cetera, it's all a consolidated ops center, if you will. And it is really, really working out for us at Wing 1. I will tell you, we're even using it as kind of a baseline for some of our, what I call my AOR construct, on having kind of a web mesh comm system. And we started with Malmstrom on just kind of our comm relay systems, or what I call our AOR, right? Because our AOR in the Northern Tier is just as vast as anyone that's downrange, right? And we all know the comm or lack of comm that we have in a lot of our Northern Tier bases. So being able to have that and demonstrate that's actually going to feed into a lot of the things that Northrop Grumman is doing and will do for us through Jason's team. So it's almost like a incubator, if you will, on being able to do things for us. So we're really excited about where they've gone with that and what F-15 has done with it up there at Malmstrom.
Yeah, it was fantastic to see, and as you said, it's just seeing the maintenance and the security forces guys side by side talking to each other, and then the display on the wall of the real-time visual, cameras to give. I mean, to actually sit there and see a team come on site from the walk was just mind-blowing for a guy who's been out of the field for so long. So
that's what that feed. I get that feed at the JNOC right here at Barksdale as well.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Vandenberg's still going to be the hub for our training.
For right now, it will be, yes. So there's money that's laid in accordance to the acquisition program that Jason's running that will help AETC. So right now we haven't, there is discussion. What I don't want to do is, because that's laid out as part of the acquisition program right now, I don't want to do anything that would disrupt or have folks see or see it as an opportunity to see it as mission creep. And then say, aha, see, there you go, guys. We told you this thing was going to be more than what you said. I want to prevent that from happening. So right now, yes, the 381st is still going to be the training hub for initial training. But just like what Space Command did with the 381st toward the end of space, we're thinking about doing it. And to be frank, we do it now. Some of the curriculum and some of the FTU functions probably better readily had at the units, right? So we are thinking about that too. So there's ongoing negotiations on what we're going to do in regard of what an FTU will look like in the future.
This one may more apply to Jason than to you, but with GBSD relying so heavily on the cloud and hacking so such a predominant thing today, are you guys confident in the security of everything you're doing in the cloud?
Hey, Jason, let me jump on this one first, and then you correct me to 100%. Because I'm also responsible for NC3 for the Air Force, to be frank, and we own about 70% of it for the Department of Defense. So we get that question all the time. Here's the reality, folks. I don't really care about the transport layer. I really don't. What I care about is the encryption on the front end and the back end. So I think people need to really understand that in 21st century comms, you can have things transported over a whole bunch of different methodologies, as long as I know that at the beginning and that encryption at the beginning, and then whatever it rides on, it could be hiding in plain sight. Who knows? And then it gets to the next layer. Once it gets to that next layer, and that encryption says that nothing has been perturbed from point A to B, I don't care about the transport layer. So Jason, why don't you take it from there?
Okay, sir. So, the cybersecurity aspect of this weapon system is to really been a top priority at the top of the DoD. And I think one of the things that I think we've enjoyed is that, everybody, I think, is very consistent about the cyber posture of the system. And I think that we have really benefited from, one is, I think, a recognition is that this isn't just a problem for us, it's really a problem for the whole department. And one of the things I think with General Cotton's leadership and General Ray's leadership has been so strong is, the idea of if we can solve some of these things for GBSD, you actually solve it for other parts of the department. And I think people see that. So when you ask about the move to the cloud, we've had, I would say the top tier experts in the whole department helping us white hat, black hat, red hat, every different piece of what we're doing. And so far, they've been very pleased. In fact, Mr. Kendall, when he took his first briefing on GBSD, I think had heard, what we were doing, and he was actually interested for more. So I think from one dimension, I agree 100% with General Cotton's vision about how we keep the system safe and secure in the field. I think we recognize the boundary of the system bleeds all the way back to what's happening already, not only inside of the Nuke Weapons Center, but also with our supply chain. And so what I would say is that our senior leadership has been fully funding us to look at this. They've sent the best people to do it. And right now, I'm very confident that we have a cyber secure approach, only because, the Secretary of Defense's number one person on cyber has been inspecting it and says this is the best he's seen in the department.
You can't answer that any better than that. Thank you very much, sir. Well, we are at the top of the hour. General Cotton, I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you got a lot on your plate, and spending time with AAFM and being a member, by the way, thank you very much. We offer our support, as I said earlier, and I'll just defer to you for any closing comments, and then we'll close out.
Well, thank you so much, Jim. And I see General Curtin's online too. So, sir, thank you for being here as well, listening in and I hope you're pleased on where we've taken the heritage of Strategic Air Command and where it's going on the defense of this nation. I hope each of you understand and are proud of the men and women that represent not only Global Strike Command, but the men and women that represent AFMC that are doing they're doing God's work in making sure that we get a new modernized system. I did see a question I do want to answer, and it was a question about our maintainers. Yes, 21 mics. I look at 21 mic career field as well. It's a broader career field because of munitions. So I'm not the plank holder on that, but for those that are included with us in the ICBM business, and even on 8th Air Force side, we make sure that we're taking care of them and ensuring that they're getting the talent management and the career field development, professional development that they need as well. So I just want to say I'm incredibly humbled, truly blessed to be the commander of Global Strike Command. I'm standing on a lot of the shoulders of the folks who are in this audience right now. And I appreciate that. And I wanted to publicly thank you for all of those who were my commanders in the past that saw something in me to say that, this kid could make it to the next rank and then ultimately here as the commander of Global Strike Command. So be proud of all the men and women that represent you today in this command. They are kicking butt. And that's really all I have, Jim. Thanks so much.
Thank you, sir. And just a reminder, everybody, this will be posted on our website probably tomorrow. Membership information at AAFM or afmissileers.org. General Cotton, General Bartolome, Colonel Bartolome, Colonel Quigley, we thank you for your time on a Saturday. And thank you, everybody. Have a great day out here.